What's going on, YouTube? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this very quick update on the case of Angel Bumpass. Now, a few months ago, I had done a video talking about her case, and now there has been an update. So I first came across her case on the show that I watch. I think it's on A&E, and it's called Accused, Guilty, or Innocent. And it just follows a criminal trial of someone who's been accused of a crime, and the time that leads up to the trial itself, and after the trial. So I came across the case of Angel Bumpass, and when I saw this originally last year, I just couldn't believe what I was watching. I think she was 24 years old at the time of her criminal trial, and she was being charged with first-degree murder because the state of Tennessee claimed that she had murdered a man by the name of Franklin Bonner, 68 years old, that she basically murdered this man by herself when she was only 13 years old. Now, her family had testified that when Angel was 13 years old, she was, a very innocent child. She didn't run with the wrong crowd, or she wasn't hanging around with bad kids. She wasn't involved in drugs or, skipping school or none of that. She was a really good student. She did really well in school. She would go to school, come home, go to school, come home, and that's it. And she spent a lot of time with her grandparents. And I think her grandparents raised her. I'm not sure. But she would spend a lot of time with her grandparents. So, she lived her life. She grew up, became an adult. I think she was taking nursing classes when she was charged with first degree murder. And plus, she was a single mom of two precious little girls. So all of a sudden, in her 20s, the state comes after her and they charge her of murder. Now, she proclaimed her innocence throughout the whole entire trial. Not only did she claim that she did not commit this horrific crime, she didn't know the victim and she didn't know her co-conspirator. So the state of Tennessee charged her along with a man by the name of Mallory Vaughn. Now, when she was 13 years old in 2009, Mallory Vaughn was a full-grown man. He was like in his 20s, I'm assuming. And he was a full-grown man. And the state of Tennessee was claiming that this 13-year-old girl co-conspired with a grown man to kill a 68-year-old man. And so they tried them separately. They tried her co-conspirator, Mallory Vaughn, first, and he was actually found not guilty. So, and the reason why they found him not guilty was because there was not enough evidence placing him at the scene of the crime. Okay, so if it was concluded that he was not guilty, that there was no evidence putting him at the scene of the crime, then the only assumption is that Angel Bumpass killed the 68-year-old man all by herself at the age of 13 when she was only 13 years old. So the victim, Franklin Bonner, he died from suffocation. He was duct taped to a chair, and his face and head was also duct taped, and he ended up suffocating to death from being bound and gagged by the duct tape. So if her co-conspirator was found not guilty because there was no evidence putting him there, that means that she bound a 68-year-old man all by herself, wrapped him up in duct tape to a chair all by herself. It was unbelievable because I was watching this and I was like, oh, she's going to be found innocent. She's going to be found innocent. So when they read the verdict and they said guilty, I mean, I was so shocked. It was like I was watching my own family member being found guilty of a crime that they didn't commit. So she was given a life sentence. So moving on, now we're here 2023. So they did an update, the show Accused, Guilty or Innocent. They did an actual episode where it was an update on the Angel Bumpass case. And in the update, we find out that 3 years into her prison sentence, she got a new set of attorneys. Her attorneys are William Massey and Seth Segraves. And I hear that William Massey is like a very well-known, very prominent, really good attorney in Tennessee. So he took on her appellate case. And one of the things that he saw wrong with the trial was that when her defense attorneys in the trial, in the original trial, they had wanted to show a picture of Angel Bumpass when she, at the age of 13, a picture of her when she was 13 years old. But the court the judge had denied it. For whatever reason, they had denied it. And the reason why her original attorneys wanted to show the jury this picture was because when you see how she looked at the age of 13, there is no way that you would believe that she would have been involved in anything like this. At the age of 13, Angel looked like she was about 10 or 11. Okay, she looked about she was there in her hair in braids and barrettes, and there was just no way you could look at this child at the age of 13 and think to yourself, this is a cold-hearted killer. But for whatever reason, the court at the original trial did not allow the defense to show that picture, and her lawyers believe that if the jury would have seen the picture, there was no way they would have convicted her of first-degree murder. Now, the evidence that did her in was fingerprints. They said that her fingerprints were found on the duct tape. So how do you explain that? Well, when I did my video on the original episode, I had said that according to the prosecution's expert fingerprint witness, the things that she said, it would not have convinced me that those fingerprints were hers. Because I think I remember the expert saying something like, I think there were partial prints. And I understand that fingerprints are very, very unique. You know, when someone's fingerprints are found somewhere, that's their fingerprint and nobody else's. Even identical twins do not have the same fingerprints. So I understand that they're very, very unique to an individual. But I just remember her testimony. It wasn't that convincing to me. So I think they found some partial prints that had matched Angel's fingerprints. Now, her grandfather had said that I think the grandfather was like a handyman, and you know, he would tinker around in his garage a lot or in his workshop, wherever he did his work. And Angel would always spend time with him, and she would play with his tools, and she would also play with the duct tape that he had in there. So the grandfather, Angel's grandfather, had said that maybe, you know, Angel was playing with my duct tape, and that's how her fingerprints got on it. And whoever murdered Franklin Bonner had taken that duct tape to, you know, to bound him to this chair. So okay, fine. I understand that's kind of far-fetched. You know, it's like, okay, she's playing with the duct tape, and then somehow this murderer got into her grandfather's workshop and took the duct tape and used that duct tape to, you know, to kill Mr. Bonner. That might sound a little bit far-fetched, but to me, that's a whole lot more believable than trying to believe that a 13-year-old girl murdered a grown man, even if the man was crippled, which I don't know. I don't know if he was. Even if he was crippled, I just cannot sit here and believe that this little girl was able to overtake him, you know, to overpower him enough to the point where she was able to completely bound him to a chair and wrap duct tape around his head. I just don't believe it. But this jury believed it. And I think, you know, maybe the jury, they watched just way too much of these CSI, SVU, whatever, all of these crime shows, these dramatic crime shows, these scripted crime shows, and everything is hinged on one little tiny piece of evidence, and that will, you know, make or break an entire case. And so they were like, oh, if this expert, this fingerprint expert is saying that her prints were found there, then that's it. She did it. Anywho, so she gets convicted. She gets life in prison. She gets a new set of attorneys, appellate attorneys. They're going to argue about the whole picture thing, that because her picture wasn't allowed to be introduced as evidence, you know, that probably had worked against her, and it could have helped her. It could have exonerated her. And so the first issue at hand was they needed to get a motion for a new trial. They filed a motion for a new trial. And the attorney, Mr. William Massey, said that in his 40-year law career, he's only been granted a motion for a new trial 4 times. That's how difficult they are to get. So he filed the motion for a new trial for Angel, and the court granted it. So that was like a miracle in itself. So she was granted a new trial. So they took care of that issue. The second issue was whether or not she was going to be able to bond out in order to go home while she's waiting for her new trial. So the prosecution, at the bond trial, at the bond hearing, excuse me, at the bond hearing, they had wanted to set bond at a really high amount. So they set it at $600,000. So which means that if she paid 60,000, she'd be able to bond out. So she had a relative there, her aunt, who's very close in age with her, and they kind of grew up like sisters. Well, her aunt came to the bond hearing and testified that they had the money to bond her out. Well, then the prosecution wanted the aunt to show how this money was acquired. And the aunt testified and said that she worked. She worked a lot. I'm not sure exactly what she did, but she said that she could make like $10,000 in a week. So she had a lot of money saved up because the aunt had talked about how there was a special fund that she had set up specifically for Angel's criminal case. And so she would deposit money into that fund. And so she had enough in the fund and she earned enough to pay the bond. Well, because she couldn't show pay slips or check stubs to show exactly how she's making and earning this money, they denied it. They denied the bond. And I was like, are you kidding me? Because the issue was, could this money have been gotten from some type of criminal activity? So she couldn't prove it with paycheck stubs that she earned it through her job. So the court denied the bond. So this is the part that gave me absolute chills. And I could not I started tearing up. There was a man at the bond hearing, where the aunt came and testified about having the money and being able to bond her out, but couldn't prove with the check stubs and all of that. At that same hearing, there was a man sitting in the audience, an African American man. And after the bond was denied, her attorney, William Massey, I don't know how this man got his attention, but they were having a conversation and you see them talking in the courtroom. And then the attorney approaches the judge and says, is it possible for this man to post her bond? Because, I don't know, I guess this man approached the attorney and said, hey, I've been following the case. I'm very interested. I believe that she's innocent and I want to help. And I'm able to post the bond for her. A complete stranger who just happened to be there. This is how the show is presenting it to us. If there's anything else going on behind the scenes, I don't know about it. So the judge is okay, I'll let him testify. So this businessman testifies. He gets on the witness stand and he testifies that he's a businessman in the community. He's a real estate investor, and I think he owns another company. I don't know if it's tech or what, but he owns another company. So he's got these two businesses and he's able to post her bond. So then the prosecution wanted proof that the money that he's going to use to bond her actually came from his business. He pulled out his phone. I guess he was able to show deposits, blah, blah, blah. He was able to prove that this money that he was going to use to bond Angel was directly coming from his legit business. So they went ahead and they granted her bond. And this man, oh, by the way, the prosecution was asking for a $600,000 bond, which means that she would have to put down 60,000. Well, the judge lowered that to 100,000. So to bond her out, you had to put down 10,000. So this businessman, this complete stranger who did not know Angel or her family, that's how the show presented it to us, didn't know her, but was just interested and invested in her case. He was able to put down the $10,000 and she was able to bond out. So we see Angel, her aunt came to pick her up. So it was a long process to get her bonded out. It took like the entire day and like half the night to get her bonded out. So her aunt went to the detention center where she was transferred to wait for her. And then finally we see Angel walking out of prison. And I could not believe it. I was so happy. And so they follow her. They follow her again. I think about 2 months later. She's been home for about 2 to 3 months, and the camera crew or the producers or whoever the show catches up with her again, and she's still waiting for her trial. And but she was able to visit her children. She went to go see her kids. She was having a conversation with her aunt, and she said that, they were talking about her seeing her kids, and she said that even though I'm innocent, I didn't do this just because I went to jail. I automatically feel like a bad parent, even though I didn't do anything, and that broke my heart. That really broke my heart. She was able to see her kids, and we didn't see that. Her kids were living with their father, and they showed us a scene where she was like at a little cafe or a coffee shop or something with her aunt, and she ordered fruit. So when she was at the register, she asked the cashier, "Do you have any fruit?" I think it was a coffee shop because you see them making coffee. So Angel's like, "Do you have any fruit?" And I was like, fruit? Did she say fruit? I thought maybe she meant like some type of a fruit drink. No, she just wanted fruit. So they gave her a bowl of fruit. And the way that she was eating it really slow, like literally savoring every bite. And her aunt was like, you should taste the strawberries because they're really sweet. So she ate the strawberry and she was like, oh my God, it is. It is so sweet. And so all of this was just to prove the point that in prison, because her aunt asked her, well, didn't you have fruit in prison? And she was like, yeah, they would give us an apple. Sometimes if we were lucky, we'd get an orange. And that was it. So she really wanted to taste fruit. And she was telling her aunt, it's these little things that we take for granted when we're free. Because when they lock you up, these are the things that you think about the most. Fruit, toothpaste, the little tiny things, being able to breathe fresh air. She talked about that. Man, I think that for people who are truly innocent, prison has a very negative effect on them. It really affects, because her person, I don't know her from Adam. I don't know what her personality was like before she went to prison, but it looked like prison really affected her. And I feel like when you're really innocent, prison does affect you. It changes who you are. But if you are guilty and you really are a criminal, you need to be punished. You need to be there, and it really doesn't affect you. I'm just saying. I'm just speculating. But I think when you're truly, truly innocent, and seeing how the legal process, how it was so unjust to you, and then you have to go to prison will definitely have an effect on you, because it seems like she is like, to me, she kind of acted like a scared little mouse. That's how she kind of acted like. But anyways, so I'm definitely going to be keeping up with this, because I need to know the outcome of her new trial. I don't want to read it up in the online, because I don't know if for the date for her new trial has come yet. I want to keep it up on the show. I like watching the events unfold on the television show, because I think the television show does a really good job in presenting these cases. So I just wanted to come back on here and just give an update, because I had done a video about this earlier. Angel Bumpass was granted a new trial. She was able to bond out, and she is home waiting for her new trial date. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. On your way out, do not forget to rate the video. If you like this content, go ahead and subscribe, and I will definitely talk to you later. Bye.